Okay, okay. Hello? Okay, I think we're live. Hi, everyone. My name is Touka. Sorry for the late start. We were having some technical difficulty. So, as I said, my name is Touka Fernande. I work with an organization called Narrative I. Narrative I is a social organization that's very proactive in, trying to work on things around social change. So we facilitate different things like workshops, exhibitions, lectures, talks. So we publish as well. So we have an in-house writer called Onyeka, who writes a lot about Black history and also the African presence within Tudor England. So today's presentation will be on Black Inventors. So what does that mean? What does that look like? So we will have, so I'll do a short presentation, and then I'll welcome any questions throughout the presentation and after the presentation as well. So when we're looking at Black inventors, historically, we're told that, our history tends to start from slavery. We're not really told much about the period before that. So, we're only told that, we were taken from a place that was poor and brought to the West to work and build up the Western world. So a lot of innovation that would have happened during that time, would have been done when, if these Africans are slaves, then their masters will take credit for their work. So that would be a big issue. So even if there were Africans who have created things, sometimes, we won't know because the credit won't go to them. So what I want to focus on is just a few inventors, even though there were many throughout this time. So the first one, computer's freezing. Sorry about that. The first one would be Garrett Morgan. Now, Garrett Morgan, he is accredited with having created, sorry, my computer's active. So he is accredited with creating the three-way free light traffic light. Now, they do say that innovation, at the heart of innovation, is laziness. That may seem like how can that be? But anytime anything is created, it's just try and make our lives a bit easier. So one being the traffic light from Garrett Morgan. Now, this was created in 1923. And then, as you can imagine, that there were different stages to the invention. And eventually, came up with this system. And what made it quite revolutionary was the fact that they didn't have a sophisticated system in this way in terms of traffic control. So when Garrett came up with this idea, it helped the flow of traffic within this time. So without his invention, drivers across the nation wouldn't be able to have direction on the road. Our next inventor would be Frederick McKinney Jones. Now, Frederick is well known for having created the refrigerated automobile. Now, that may seem quite So he's credited for created a refrigerated automobile. So what this facilitated, or what this enabled, was the transport of goods to be stored in a cool place. Now, Frederick created this in 1940, and what this done was that it enabled a lot more goods to be transported from one place to the other. Before this, they didn't have a cooling system that would enable them to really transport goods in that way. So this was his invention started in 1930, but was completed in 1940. And then what this done as well is that it helped to preserve things like blood and food supplies during the World War. So this would have been a major contribution towards World War II. But we don't necessarily always hear about the African impact or influence to these major world events. But Frederick was one of those contributors. Sorry, I have to keep going back and forth on my presentation. Most of you should know who this is because there's been a lot of limelight, I suppose, put on Lewis Latimer. But Lewis Latimer, he's well known for having created the carbon light bulb filament within the light bulb in 1881. And then even though the light bulb itself, the full light bulb is always accredited to Thomas Edison, but it's the filament really that gave the light bulb that longevity. And it's really, and what it meant was that people were able to utilize the light, and these things improved the condition that people were living in, and it improved so many other things. Lewis Latimer, he also invented an improved bathroom for the railroad trains. You can imagine when people are traveling in the 19th century on the trains, the bathrooms, or at least the toiletry, wasn't in the best condition. So Lewis Latimer's contribution towards that really did make a difference in the traveling experience for all people, really, traveling in America during the end of the 19th century. Okay, here you have Mark Dean. Now, Mark Dean, he's famous for co-inventing the color IBM PC monitor and chip. And so before we had, flat screens and high definition monitors, TV back in the day, well, back in the 40s, 50s, were black and white, as many of you will know. And these televisions these televisions were limited to their processing power. But all that changed really when Mark Dean and these other co-inventors in the early 80s developed color for these monitors. Now we take for granted the ability to be able to see everything in high definition or in brilliant color. But back then, most people may not have seen the color of the actress's dress or have known the color of the walls within someone's house. And now we have the luxury of being able to see that due to someone like Mark Dean's contributions. Okay, another inventor would be Sarah Boone. Now, this is a very good example of, an innovation that makes our everyday life a lot better. So Sarah Boone is very, she's known for inventing the ironing board, which in every household on Sundays is a luxury. Because when you need to, iron all your clothes, having a flat surface to be able to do that really does help. And now Sarah Bourne, she invented this in 1892, and she was an African-American woman who would have been born in slavery. And she would have been one of the first African-American women to receive a patent for an invention. As I mentioned at the beginning, that, there would have been a lot of slaves that would have invented things, however, wouldn't have got the credit due to the fact that their masters owned them. So her being an ex-slave that was able to gain her a patent for her invention was a significant thing. And originally, the iron board was two, as you can see in the picture, two wooden horizontal blocks, and then you have the addition of the metal and the garments that were added to it. Obviously, the ironing board has been modernized a lot for more modern use, but it all started with her invention back then. So, okay, so then you have Mary Van Britten Brown. Now, she's well known for inventing a home security system. And this would have been in 1966. And you have, she was an African-American nurse, and she would have lived in a time, in the 60s, in a time where before you had the security system, it wasn't, she lived in Queens in America, and it weren't necessarily the most safe neighborhood, and it had a high rate of crime. And on top of that, being an African-American woman, the police weren't exactly the most helpful to people of color back then, and they wouldn't have necessarily been as responsive if she was to report a crime. So that encouraged her to create a device that would keep her safe at home, because she was a woman who lived on her own, and this helped her to put her mind at ease. So, without these type of inventions, we may not necessarily feel as safe, whether it's at home or whether in our business premises. So back in 1966, Brown invented a system that used a camera that could slide into and look through your peephole into her front door. And the camera's view would then appear on a monitor in her home so that she could survey any potentially unwanted guests. She later added other features to the system that included a microphone to speak to anyone at the door, a button to unlock the door, and a button to contact the police. And her and her husband took out a patent for the system in the same year. And then they were later awarded 3 patents in 1966. And this is a system that's commonly used all over, well, in the western parts of the world. It is a luxury that is afforded to most people in that side of the world, and it is something that a lot of us do rely on to keep us safe in our homes. Okay, so you've got Alexandria Miles. Now he is well known for having created the elevator doors. Now this was created in 1887. And can you imagine? Now most buildings that have more than 2 or 3 floors have a lift or an elevator. But back in the 19th century, that wasn't really a thing. So no matter whether a building had 20 floors or 30 floors or 40 floors, the only mode of transport between those floors was going up the stairs. So yeah, so even though just before Alexandria Miles invented the elevator doors, the automatic elevator doors, there was a system in the mid 19th century where people could be pulled up in a metal box, but again, the doors weren't automatic. So what would happen is that these doors would have to be turned open, or manually turned open and closed. Because of this process, a lot of times people would forget to either close it or open it, mainly close it, or people would forget to close it before they started riding the elevator, which would lead to multiple accidents as people fell down the elevator shaft. So even creating that, creating the mechanism to have the lift close on its own, reduce the accident rates with these elevators, and ensured that most people riding these elevators could keep themselves safe. Could keep themselves safe. You then have another invention that was invented by James E. West in 1964. And James E. West would have invented the microphone. So the electric microphone, sorry. And then what this would do is that the microphone was able to, was able to be used in phones and in cameras, and then was able to pick up more sounds than it had done previously before. So with the addition, so this enabled more effective things like this contributed, to hearing aids, tape recorders, telephones, and baby monitors, because the sound that was created in the microphone was better quality, and was able to differentiate between different sounds. So enabled these later technologies that would make our lives just a bit simpler or easier. You then have other inventors just to let you know, my PowerPoint is not moving slides, so I'm going to keep it on this slide, but I'm going to talk you through the inventors. So someone else, another inventor would be Dr. Shirley Jackson, and her contributions, she was a theoretical physician, and her contributions are, she contributed towards a touch tone telephone, caller ID, and then fiber optic cable. Now, she was an African American, and she studied technology in 1973, and she had earned herself a doctorate in nuclear physics at MIT. Now, because of this gave her the experience or the knowledge to be able to invent or contribute towards the invention of the things that I've previously mentioned. So because of her, she carried out various experiments, and it paved the way for those different technologies. Okay, another inventor I'd like to talk about is Marie Van Britten Brown. Now, she was sorry, I already mentioned her. I wasn't meant to mention her. Another inventor is Otis Boyking. Now, Otis Boyking, his time was during 1920 and 1982, and he contributed towards the pacemaker. Now, he was a scientist, an African-American scientist, and he's got 26 patents in his name. Now, 26 is a huge amount to have patents in your name, and he is famous for the development of the IBM computers, chemical air filters, electronic resistors, that's used in controlled missiles and other devices. Now, we always think of, when we think of technology and innovation, we tend not to really think that Black people contributed as much, especially in modern time. But it's always good to see that there were people of color who have made a major contribution to modern technologies that we use today, and that are quite important. Another inventor would be Lenny G. Johnson. Now, his contributions include, his contributions include my computer's freezing. His contributions include the thermoelectronic energy converter. And also the super soaker. Now, the super soaker is a famous water gun, and he made toys, but then also, as I said, he made the thermoelectric energy converter. As much as, most children, or even if you think back to your childhood, most people would have used the super soaker or the water gun. It's a staple in most households for children, because when you think about summer and you think when you're out, you're playing with your friends, you have the water gun. It makes things more fun. So other than the two inventions I've mentioned, Lonnie G. Johnson also had more than 40 patents. So another inventor would be Charles Drew. Now, Charles Drew was a physician and medical researcher, and one of his major developments was the blood bank. Now, thanks to Charles Drew, blood is available. So he was a physician, a surgeon, and a medical researcher who worked with a team at Red Cross on groundbreaking discoveries across around blood transfusion. Now, this would have been during World War II, where he's doing a lot of his work. And he played a major role in developing the first large-scale blood banks and blood plasma programs. Now, because of this, if his work is around World War II, you can imagine the tragedies that are going on, the accidents, the fact that people are dying, and the fact that he's able to provide blood to these people that need it, essentially, because we are there is a world war, and now more than ever, it's a time where people need these type of innovation to be able to save lives. Yeah. So another inventor would be Marion R. Kroc. She's one of our more recent inventors, and she is she's worked in technology as a scientist, and she's worked in technology as she's a scientist, and she's known for her work within the scientific world. She also holds different over 135 different patents, primarily in voice over internet protocols, some in other areas. She has another 100 patents that are currently under review around different fields as well. Sorry, my computer has frozen again. Okay, our last inventor would be Lisa Jalobta, and she is her major development includes shockwave, so genesis of animation on the web. So it would be online videos. So if we think of GIFs, she made contributions towards enabling people to be able to create GIFs. Now we see it as a technology that is part and parcel of our culture now, and it's because of contributions. It's because of work that Lisa and others have done to be able to enable this to become possible. Okay, that's, let me see. Okay, that's the end of the presentation. I would now obviously welcome questions. If anyone has any questions that they would like to ask. Okay, we'll just give it a moment as people need to type. As I'm here, I just want to let you know, next Sunday, there will be another talk. I could just get it up. There will be another talk. So next Sunday, the 19th, there will be another talk by Dr. Nubia, and this will be on England's hidden history. It will start for 5 o'clock. I doubt there will be any technical difficulties. And then this will be looking at, Dr. Nubia will be sharing discoveries from research that he's done with more than 250 artifacts from archives and parish records about the Black Moors of England and how their lives affected us. So if you are interested in that, or it's something that you have never really heard about, it'll be good if you could tune in for that. Okay. As I wait, what I do want to do is just talk about as we are focusing on Black inventors and okay, so I got a question from Michelle. What are good places or resources to find out more about Black inventors and scientists? There are so many. Yeah, so that's a good question. There are so many resources online because the internet is a brilliant place right now that tell you about just the different inventors throughout history. Even if you typed in Black inventors online, there's a wealth of information that you can find on more than 1,000 different inventors that would have existed throughout the ages on what was invented. Okay, so yeah, so as we are looking at Black inventors, um, one thing is that when if we look at a time before slavery, when we had Black people had civilizations on the continent and also in various other places. There would have been, we would have been quite skilled. We would have been quite skilled in the science, in maths, and various other technologies. And I think it's important to be able to use that history to inspire us and to keep on keep on being creative and don't limit yourself, because obviously your ancestors have created something quite amazing in the past, and it's possible to continue that on. But if there aren't any other questions, I'd like to thank everyone that tuned in. Thank you very much for your time this evening. And yeah, thank you for having me on, and I'll see you all very soon. Thank you.